Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to another broadcast. Today is Friday, May 24th, 2019, and this is another exciting day. I've been catching up on a few things in regards to QAnon and politics. Trying to catch up. I got a little off track for a little while, but one of the best YouTubes that I like to follow is Serial Brain 2, because it gets into the very deep decoding that takes place with the overall let's say gematria to secret codings that are put into place as a puzzle, where the purpose is to have us figure out what's being said, because of a couple of things. Number one, they need to wake everyone up. It does no good for us just to see another talking head saying, hey, this is what's going on. You must think this way. It's better to have people presented the places to look so that they can dig in and find their own information. And see, does this now what picture is being painted here? So the levels of this are very deep. There's some very simple, what they call Q proofs, that basically show that President Trump, in his tweeting, or when he is speaking and he's giving certain information, usually the way that's transmitted is by way of correction. So if there's a misspelled word and then it's corrected, how much time does it take to see the correction happen? All right, then you can relate that amount of time to a Q post, and you go back and say, well, what is the conversation about? Then you re-watch or read the tweet. Okay, now with the context of what the Q post had said, what is it saying? So there is a lot of. I have someone has joined in. I have posted in the where we go all.love Telegram chat. Now I'm posting it there for everyone who's participating who wants to join in. So if you become a member of the Where We Go all.love website, you join and become a let me mute you for a moment, and then unmute yourself when we're ready to have a conversation. So if you register there at the website, still not mute. I don't know why it's not muting. There we go. So if you register there at the Where We Go One, We Go All.love website, as the point is there is there's levels, and if you have if you're paying the $1.11 a month, there's going to be a chat area where I will post this. But for right now, I'm posting it in the general one because we're just in the beginning. And so we have 30, I think it's 31 people, 31, at least the last time I looked, that have registered for the site. 6 are at the, have gone to the $1.11 level, and 2 have gone to the $8.88 level. So I appreciate all of that. That helps me, continue to focus to do these broadcasts. But the purpose is that we can start relaying information. I've got a lot of information I'm organizing to put on the site, and so after I get the first hurdle of getting out the information, it will go a lot smoother. But for right now, I'm I'm trying to manage to get it into place where it's more of a system, so that when I were for example, speaking about Serial Brain 2, I would list that as a topic of conversation in the forum, so that we can discuss what the issues are and answer questions that come about. Because, as I said, this is fairly deep information, because this goes. This is really about if you remember when you were a child and you came up with your own secret language. You ever had that happen? Or speak in Pig Latin? The secret societies and the elite have their own way of communicating with each other by symbols, and especially since the satellites were taken down, so that they are no longer able to communicate with each other using the secret means that they've been, that's been cut off from them. They're taken to Twitter, and they send out this information for their minions to see what is being said, and then they decode it. So what we're also able to decode what they're saying, and as a result, they're being exposed. So, I can look at Jim Coney's standing on a road, looking off into the distance, right? As, hey, I'm getting ready to get out of here, but that may have nothing to do with what's actually being said. But it is intriguing to see at the depths at which these codes are played out. Now, with QAnon and the posts that are in Q and Trump's tweets, we get the only authorized channel of information that's coming as to how to muster the troops, how to go out and approach things, what to look for. Look over here, look over here. Before things happen, we're being given heads up, sometimes a year in advance, sometimes weeks in advance, sometimes days in advance, or even the day. And sometimes there's projected dates. A lot of the dates are put out there, though, to rattle the cages of the cabal and get them to spend their information, spend their ammunition, which is change the news cycle. But because we are now on it, and we're thinking now because of these puzzles and trying to figure out things, we've awoken to what is actually happening. And now we're able to really peer in deep and see what's going on. So, all right, that's kind of my introduction. We're going to now go into Serial Brain 2 after we have see who's joined us. So, Deanne, do you want to say hello and say why you've decided to join us on camera today?
Because I got an invitation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Well, I want to keep it open for people to participate and join in. this is kind of a new thing to do, so I appreciate you jumping on. So everyone's welcome. We are limited to 8 people total on the screen at one time.
Okay.
So but
I'd like to leave, but I don't know how to leave.
No, you're not allowed to leave. You're stuck here forever. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a refresher. So if you move, are you on a computer or are you on your phone?
I'm computer.
Okay. If you move your mouse over the center of the screen, you'll see a bar appearing above, like kind
Yes.
of. So
Yeah.
right there on the far right, it has a hang up phone symbol. So that's how you could exit the meeting.
Will I still be able to hear you?
No. But if you go on,
well then,
go on the YouTube, it's live right now on YouTube, so you could go that way as a way. If you want to hang out, you're welcome to. You can also, on that same bar, there's the camera icon. You can turn off the camera, and mute is right next to that. So you would be able to go ahead and mute yourself, and also turn your camera off if you wanted to do that. But you're welcome to hang out for a while. It's no problem.
okay, then somebody else can come on.
Well, again, we have room for 8.
Okay.
That's so.
Oh.
It's only me and you right now. Tank will be coming on, and Tui will be coming on, and we still have room, so it's okay.
I'm just amazed at the information you all put out. Oh my goodness, I wanted to hear that so badly. So
Well,
I'm gonna.
appreciating it, because we want to bring up the level of information so people can kind of grasp it and try and organize it as well in a way that makes some sense, because there's so much out there, and some of the things we're talking about are really far out, really far out.
Yeah.
The edge of
Someone who's never heard it. Oh,
right.
I'm muted.
We have to realize that 90%, 99% of the people probably have never heard this stuff.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So it's really a big task to get there. Even the people that, let's say, we've had a lot of conversation about GCR, global currency reset. So even that, we're still only talking about millions of people. How many people have heard of it? Is it 10 million people out of 8 billion people on the planet? So we're talking about a small segment, and then of course we're only reaching hundreds of thousands of people with the conversations that we're having. So it takes some time, to get this information out, and if we try to give it in little tiny pieces, it makes some sense. That's why analyzing what Serial Brain 2 is saying, I think is a very good thing. We'll talk about David Janda and his actually the point at which the hammer was brought out into the public's view, right, and then how it was beat back. Right, so we get to see this all unfold from all this alternative media, and really what we need to do is literally turn off all of the cable channels media, including Fox. Really, I do watch Fox on YouTube, catching bits and pieces, but really we need to turn off these boxes and stop participating in this information, because it just confuses the situation. We're not really getting truth. So there's one official channel right now that would be QAnon coming through 8chan, but there are some trusted sites like map.pub that we can say are organizing it better for people to grab the information and see it. And so that's what I'm doing with Where We Go When We Go All.love. So this is also just to help organize it, but from more of a strategic point. Like, these are the front lines in the battle.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Ready for battle. Okay, I'll turn off my. There we go.
There you go. And then if you get your microphone next, then you won't pop up when other information flies by. So, okay, well, thank you, Deanne, for joining in. And if you want to say something else, just go ahead and join in later. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put on the serial brain to we'll discuss this. Serial brain 2.
You joined our movement because you rejected the failures and betrayals of the past. You stared down a corrupt system that enriched itself at your expense. And you look at what we just went through with this phony deal, this phony witch hunt that we all went through together is a disgrace. Now they're all blaming each other, do you see? They're all turning on each other. Isn't that pretty to watch? It's his fault. No, it's his fault. Now we caught them. They were spying. They were spying on our campaign. I'll tell you what, if that ever happened to the other side, this thing would have been over 2 years ago. And you know, it would have been treason. They would have called it treason. And that's what it is. It was treason. And it should never be allowed to happen to another president again. Ever, ever, ever.
I just want to say that this the point about this is that this is about the hammer. That's been our topic. So, and the beast in Sally Yates. So, the hammer being the spying system put into place by Obama and Clapper and Brennan. So this is a spy on everybody, not just Trump. And it wasn't just at the time of the election. It was from 4 years prior. So the idea of this whole cover-up is that they're talking about is really their cover-up. So Nancy Pelosi saying, you're doing a cover-up. It's really they're the ones doing the cover-up. And what it was is this whole Mueller report. It was the blockade to stop everything from coming out about the hammer. And so you knowing this means you're already 6 months ahead of everyone else out there who's watching TV boxes, right? They really don't get the whole thing yet.
Let's get closer. This decode is something special. Speaking of special, you see these? This is a 1 ounce solid silver Trump 2020 Freedom coin. And this is a 10 ounce solid.
Go ahead a little bit.
Serial brain 2. Trump, the hammer, the beast, and Sally Yates. Have you caught the recent comms from the President of the United States about the hammer? Now that you know about this system and how Hussein illegally spied on millions of Americans with Clapper and Brennan's help, it should be easier for you to decode the conversation. Let's start with the Maestro's May 14th press gag.
No, I wasn't surprised, but you have to understand, they do 600 billion, meaning we buy 600 billion, they buy 100 billion. We have all the advantage. It's a very small factor for us, and we have a much bigger economy now. You know, since my election, we've gone up so much. We have a much bigger economy than China. But if you take a look, 600 million versus 100 million, it's a different world. We're looking at that very strongly. Well, about the 325 billion, we're looking at it very strongly. David? I don't know anything about that. I read that, probably fake news, but I read that this morning. I don't know anything about it. Well, you know, it's really a tough situation because my son spent I guess, over 20 hours testifying about something that Mueller said was 100% okay. And now they want him to testify again. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but it seems very unfair to me. I think it's fake news, okay? Now, would I do that? Absolutely. But we have not planned for that. Hopefully we're not going to have to plan for that. And if we did that, we'd send a hell of a lot more troops than that. But I think it's just, where was that story? The New York Times? Well, the New York Times is fake news. Go ahead. Yeah. So, you have no tariff to pay whatsoever if you're a business. All you have to do is build or make your product in the United States. There's no tariff whatsoever. So that really works out very well. I think we're winning it. We're going to be collecting over $100 billion in tariffs. Our people, if they want, they can buy from someplace else other than China, or they can really, the idea is make their product in the USA. That's what I really want. Yeah, we're winning it. You know what? You want to know something? You want to know something? We always win. We always win. Well, I didn't understand his answer because I thought the Attorney General answered it perfectly. So I certainly didn't understand that answer. I thought it was a ridiculous answer. Thank you.
You caught that? Did you notice he spoke about billions, then switched to millions? How about when he mentioned David and Emerald? Here are a few hints. Quote from the president, no, no, no. I wasn't surprised, but you have to understand they do 600 billion, meaning we buy 600 billion. They buy 100 billion. We have all the advantage. It's a very small factor for us. But if you take a look at 600 million versus 100 million, it's a different world. We're looking at that very strongly. About the 325 billion, we're looking at it very strongly, David. Then below, how are you, Emerald? I'm good. How are you? Good. What's up? Do you have confidence in Christopher Wray after he said he wouldn't exactly call it spying? Well, I didn't understand his answer because I thought the Attorney General answered it perfectly. So I certainly didn't understand that answer. I thought it was a ridiculous answer. Thank you. Qanon equals 61. We are in coded area. Billions versus millions. Numbers not relevant. Detect the hidden message. The Freemasons know who David is equals 325. I'm sure you want me to tell you about Ray. I will not now, but I promise I will. All I can say now is Q1122, trust Ray. Now, who is this David that Freemason?
So see, just pointing out that, see how there was a previous QAnon post that basically said to trust Ray. But we don't know when we're supposed to trust Ray. Or, I mean, always, but when does it come into play? When do we know? Has that been a factor yet? No. But it's being information is being delivered to us to start piquing our interest in certain areas, and that's some of the point that we need to focus on.
No, and why did the maestro mention Emerald? Answer: Obama's dysfunctional counterintelligence. Number of degrees, the Freemasons know who David is equals 325. Go below 33,000 emails, HRC email investigation, which goes to David Loffman, Obama's chief of counterintelligence and export control section, fired, which links to the hammer. The hammer equals 58 and emerald equals 58. The counterintelligence and export control section supervises the investigation and prosecution of cases affecting national security, foreign relations, and the export of military and strategic commodities and technology. Go below to Q1316, National Security HRC email investigation, fired, force, decoded message. David Loffman supervised the HRC email investigation and organized the cover-up. He was responsible for counterintelligence and therefore knew about the hammer. He was responsible for the prosecution of the Uranium One case and looked the other way. This is a typical example of how loyalty to secret societies is achieved at the expense of the people.
So you see how it's hard to track how these things come about in the messages. Trump is just giving a conversation, but when he makes a mistake and he switched billions to millions, you have to look at what it means, and it may be a little bit. You seem far like a stretch to think that it means these words, but if you follow along from the very beginning of Serial Brain 2, go back a year, start following how these things are actually laid out. Everything in QAnon was about teaching how to decode the information coming from QAnon and from Trump. So it's part of the game. That's why it's pretty intense to kind of jump into it at this point. If you put that aside and just look at what the decodes are, the final bit of information, you can see that now we're talking about Hillary's emails and the hammer.
You can see David has been very busy not being busy. From HRC selling state secrets through her private server to the hammer running on American soil to selling our uranium to Russia. Hussein's top-level administration knew everything. Read very carefully. Tweet from President Trump, 11:11 p.m., 28 August 2018. Hillary Clinton's emails, many of which are classified information, got hacked by China. Next move better be by the FBI and DOJ, or, after all of their missteps, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Page, or FISA, dirty dossier, etc., their credibility will be forever gone. Q 1978, big statement. What's coming? Q. What if access to the servers was deliberate? What if this is known within the intelligence community? What if this is known within the FBI and DOJ? If known, why no action? Why was the information on Weiner's laptop in the first place? Q 1959. Clowns revealed in China, other 2010. 187 in the kill brackets. Sold intel, HRC open source server, missing emails, CrowdStrike, granted access, betrayed, only the tip. This will be made public soon. Q. China hacked HRC server, false. Access was granted. Decoded message. The missing emails have the evidence that HRC was selling access to her private server with classified intel. HRC hired CrowdStrike to delete them, preferring to obstruct justice and still continue to play the game with political cards instead of being immediately arrested for treason. Obama's intelligence community, FBI, and DOJ were aware that HRC sold access to her private server and took no action except NSA. Instead, they plotted to cover up HRC's crimes and Huma's life insurance file found on Weiner's laptop. This is only the tip of the iceberg. You got that? HRC server was never hacked. She sold access. Now you look at how Hussein's administration willingly participated. The private email club and their IT consultant, Q5.
To see how all of the agencies were on board with what was going on was really selling off America, selling off all of the technology, selling all of the pieces off. The depths at which everyone will really be surprised at. It gets into this a little bit later, and it literally talks about there's an auction where the information is being auctioned off. That's the depths. It's so cavalier, so in your face, because they do it in front of all the cameras of the world, right? And they play it off because they're untouchable until now. Now they're feeling, and that's why Trump was pointing out that Brennan and Comey are pointing at each other. Oh, he did it. Oh, he did it. Loretta Lynch saying Comey did it. Comey saying Loretta Lynch did it. They're all pointing fingers at each other because now they know that the jig is up, that Barr is in place, and the information is now going to be coming out very soon. Is it this week? Is it next week? Information on dates put out by QAnon and the implication that it's coming soon, or this is the week type of information where it's as obvious this is the time that's going to happen. It's to get them to react, to put out something that will change the news cycle, because they want something more horrific to take away from their bad deeds. So when it comes out, it slides into the public view in a way. Look at what's happening is this information is now percolating slowly all over the place, right? They can't quite peg one thing. It's just the awareness is coming up, not with one fell swoop, but over a period of weeks, this information comes into view for people. When will people actually be all coming from every direction in a way that people say, well, yeah, I know what the hammer is, without them coming out and say, the hammer was put into place by Brennan. This information is percolating out there slowly so that it comes out through things like Serial Brain 2, through broadcasts such as this, telling you about it so that you can actually tell others about it. So it's out there, so it's not in the mainstream media coming out from Barr speaking, because when that does happen, it's already too late. Everyone just then has the confirmation, and they're already mad about it. Well, we'll go on. We'll continue.
5-9. Who used private email addresses? Did Hussein use a private email address? At what? Who just resigned from GOOG? Why was E. Schmidt in North Korea? Why was he in North Korea? What private network did E. Schmidt set up in North Korea? Let's ask again. Why would the chairman of Google travel to North Korea? Why would North Korea allow access to E. Schmidt? Nothing is ever truly erased, deleted. They all had private emails to access the market, and Eric Schmidt from Alphabet Google was the anointed IT guy who would set up the communication platforms. Thank you.
So think about North Korea, all these years being looked at as, this is who's going to start a nuclear war. These are the bad guys, axis of evil, right? For all of these decades, and the war fought there. How does Eric Schmidt from Google waltz into North Korea to work on IT issues with an email server? Unless the North Korea has been pretty much a puppet state of the cabal. All of this time. It's all puppet show. It's all getting people right now. Not everyone is in alignment. So maybe Kim Jong-un is basically thinking, you know what? This is the time to get out of this stupid system that we're basically made the evil people of the world, and we're probably going to be with the target of a nuclear exchange. Not a good position to be in, right? So he's working with Trump. Of course, he's got forces inside of his country. But anyway, but I just want to point out that this doesn't happen. You just, no one's just going to waltz into North Korea. It is a complete dictatorship, communist dictatorship. And they're going to be really focused on anyone coming in to do IT there and allowing it to happen. No, unless this is part of their infrastructure. Let us continue.
Q says this, Q1504, Eric Schmidt is key. Why? Because the person who runs the platform has it all. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of all the countries gathering in HRC's market and can silently sell anything to anyone. Did the US have some kind of defense mechanism? Yes. We learned from Q1981 that there is a paper trail. The NSA tried to warn Hussein, who did not do anything because he was complicit. Q1981, what if the paper trail exists? PDB via no such agency. Hussein made aware with no action. Why did Hussein HRC admin staff use private emails to communicate? Was HRC the only one to use unsecured servers? Matters of national security. Q. Decoded message. The NSA warned Hussein about the existence of HRC's private server and how she was selling access. This warning is documented and archived in the presidential daily briefings. Hussein did not take action. He already knew about it, communicated with HRC through that server, and was using private emails with his staff and high-level administration to conceal their treasonous activities. During the transition, the intelligence community tried to keep the information away from the President of the United States, who was already aware through Admiral Rogers and General Flynn. This is the real reason Flynn was targeted. They wanted to besiege the president, nullify his defenses, and feed him with the infectious intel that would have destroyed his presidency. This HRC private server scheme was replicated in Congress by Pakistani intelligence, who planted Awan with the help of Muslim Brotherhood asset and HRC aide and confidant Puma. Let's now listen to the maestro the same day at the Hackberry rally in Louisiana. Wait a minute, Hackberry? You got that one? Yes, Hack plus BlackBerry, but also BL plus H equals bleach bit. The maestro is referring to the acid wash server and the BlackBerries the witch destroyed with a hammer, and that have all the evidence about the hammer and her international state secret market. Comms good? Look how in his April 15, 2018 ABC interview with Stephanopoulos, high IQ, not a weasel Comey lies about it and suggests there are people who resell destroyed phones and other people who buy them. Stephanopoulos, one of the things that President Trump and his allies bring up is that at some point, her staff smashed BlackBerries, also whitewashed the server. Comey, yeah, there was evidence that old BlackBerries, after she was finished with them, they destroyed them, which I think a fair number of people do to make sure that if it's resold, someone doesn't end up with your information. Oh my, did he actually say this? Stephanopoulos. So what impact did the so-called Steele dossier have on the FBI investigation? Did that trigger the FBI investigation in any way? Comey. No. In fact, as I said, the information that triggered it was the Papadopoulos information that came in late July. The FBI didn't get any information that's part of the so-called Steele dossier, and as I understand it, until after that. And so the investigation was triggered entirely separately from the Steele dossier. Q2776, Barr to Mueller. What justification existed to effectively launch a massive domestic foreign surveillance campaign against the president, president-elect president, and members of his transition campaign team? Mueller to Barr. Steele dossier along with media corroboration of those findings. Comment. So, Mr. Comey, why did the Steele dossier exist and was given teeth to make it to FISA if you already had an investigation triggered by Papadopoulos? Seems Comey and Mueller need a one-on-one to get their story straight, especially if Mueller is to appear before Congress. Now you know why Barr is okay with it and why Dems are into retro peddling. This is so much fun to watch. Now that you know why the rally happened in Hackberry, let's listen to the maestro in the first coded area of his speech.
We're focusing the EPA on its core mission, ensuring clean air and crystal clean water for our citizens. And our air right now is cleaner than it's ever been. And one of the things I told to Bill and Steve and John coming over, we're in the Beast. We traveled in the Beast. I think it's the world's most expensive army tank, right? The windows, the walls. But they said, sir, we'd love to have John Kennedy say, whatever you can do, I-10 bridge. You know the I-10 bridge? Cow Cascu shoe. But I like I-10 much better. Can we go by I-10? You mind? Okay. You know, you've been saying that word your whole lives. Me? I just heard it about 20 minutes ago. So the I-10 bridge, and I say this, and I give you this commitment, and I can't play with these three, Steve, John, Bill, everybody sitting here. If we win this election, which is just 16 months away, we're giving you a brand new I-10 bridge. I didn't know it was going to be that popular. And we're going to start work on it right away because I think we're going to win. So we want to be prepared. Okay, so we'll start work on it right away in terms of planning, everything. And let's do a beauty, okay? But it's a very unsafe bridge, a lot of problems, and we're going to give you a new one. They've been trying to do it for a long time. So we're going to start planning and development right away, and we'll have it all set to go day one, right after the election, okay?
Did you solve? You caught his reference to clean air was code for the smell in the air from the White House Red Sox event, right? That's how he was signaling we were entering the coded area. If you still want to play, here is the transcript with highlights to help you decode. Try to solve as much as you can. And we're focusing the EPA on its core mission, ensuring clean air and crystal clean water for our citizens. And our air right now is cleaner than it's ever been. And one of the things I told to Bill and Steve and John coming over, we were in the Beast. We traveled in the Beast. I think it's the world's most expensive army tank, right? The windows, the walls. But they said, sir, we'd love to have John Kennedy saying, whatever you can do, I-10 bridge. You know the I-10 bridge? Cow-cask issue. Laughter, but I like I-10 much better. Can we go by I-10? Do you mind? Okay, you know, you've been saying that word your whole lives. Me, I just heard it about 20 minutes ago. Laughter. So the I-10 bridge, and I say this, and I give you this commitment. And I can't play with these three, Steve, John, Bill, everybody sitting here. If we win this election, which is just 16 months away, we're giving you a brand new I-10 bridge. I didn't know it was going to be that popular, laughter, and we're going to start working on it right away because I think we're going to win, so we want to be prepared, okay? So we'll start work on it right away in terms of planning everything, and let's do a beauty, okay? But it's a very unsafe bridge, a lot of problems. And we're going to give you a new one. They've been trying to do it for a long time, so we're going to start planning and developing right away. And we'll have it all set up to go day one, right after the election, okay? Good. First, what?
No. Is he actually talking about a bridge? Or is he really talking about, you know, the whole infrastructure that's been put in place and how it's now not for the people and it smelled bad, right? Now it's all clean. It's all being cleaned up. Now it's never been cleaner. Another way to decode.
Did he mean with his insistence on the presidential car, the Beast? You need to solve Hammer plus Trump plus car. I told you, I'll tell you again. Always start with the BBC. By doing so, you find this video. If only cars could talk, what stories this one might tell. And there's a lot of beautiful women that's written in me. Are pretty straightforward messages, right? They tried to threaten Trump with the hammer at the beginning of his presidency, And in this bogus report, they told us right there and then about the stormy play that was coming. Did you detect the witch in the video? Saw the name of the limo owner who he was working for and why they capitalized owner? It's right here. The Purple Code rallying cry and the threat from the cabal. November 9th, 2016. HRC concession speech and the Purple Code. Notice how Tim Kaine has no clue. A BBC News headline, March 16th, 2017. Limousine made for Donald Trump goes under the hammer. Auction scheduled on March 19th, 2017. David Rockefeller dies on March 20th, 2017. Coincidence? Craig, EYRES equals 110. Rockefeller equals 110. LO equals liaison officer, point of contact. Black shirt equals black ops C underscore A asset. There's a picture of the Pope wearing purple. There I saw a woman sitting on a red beast. The beast was covered with evil names. It had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and red. Revelation 17, verses 3 and 4. Decoded message. With her color code at her concession speech, HRC activated the largest and most ancient spy network of the world, the Vatican. In an effort to stop Trump, the network used the media to communicate among themselves, but also to send threats to Trump. In this case, his old car is used to illustrate that the hammer may have collected information on him and that he needed to collude with the enemy or face obstruction. We all know how it ends. As you can see, we caught another David. You remember the maestro's old friend I told you about in this post and in this image? HRC's state secret market is an old game the Rockefellers and similar creatures know very well. In one shot, I gave you that the witch was a Vatican asset and that Rockefeller was a C_A puppet. Pretty cool, right? With this car auction, you now know why they named the system the Hammer. They were selling our data and our state secret intel in international auctions. We'll finish this decode in part 2 for this video. Please stay tuned. We'll find out who Sally Yates really is. And it's all tied together in scripture. You don't want to miss it. Q855. America has been sold to the highest bidder. America has been weakened on purpose. The depths of their treason is unimaginable. Pure evil, hell on earth, HRC victory, Q.
Well, there we go. So this is the how the depths are in decoding this are very deep. Now it gets this is more of like a foretelling of what is going to be coming out that'll be made more clear, but we are prepared because we're listening to this information ahead of the rest of everyone. So it's part of our mission is to get this information into the hands of everyone that we can, as far as we can reach, so that they start to wake up to literally under the hammer. That information collected is sold to the highest bidder to get people to be able to be blackmailed. So it's not all about, a single president blackmailing everyone underneath. No, it's about them making money off of selling the assets that they have taken from the people that are their chattel, to put it under the hammer, to sell it off, to sell off the data. Now, David Janda has brought out the information about what the hammer is in regards to very simple level of understanding. It is to spy on everybody. But why the name hammer? To hammer everybody down? So initially, you can think of that. Yeah, that works. But really, it's to sell the information to the highest bidder so that you could be blackmailed by whoever paid for the information. Is this not hell on earth? Us having this information ahead of time gives us the ability to help push the wave of information along faster. That's the importance of QAnon and the Trump tweets and Serial Brain too. You know, there's other decodes out there, a lot of anons out there that decode and look at the gematria, look at the numbers and see what the time frames are between and figure out the posts, and then they could talk about it. This is all important because we all have perspective. Because, like I said, I stopped it right there, and I said, listen, if they're saying that this information is being put out there for us to for us to basically react against, we have the ability to make these steps mean something right here and now, because we're aware of our of this information that's coming through. It has a vibration that we can react with. I'm sorry if I'm fumbling my words because I'm trying to get out the information in a way that my impression of something has maybe more unique than what came from Serial Brain 2 on thing, but they both are valid. For example, you know, like I said, David Janda and Operation Freedom bringing out about the hammer. That's, you know, people can latch on to that much more easier than they can Serial Brain 2. But if we're 6 months later at the point where Serial Brain 2 says that our information was sold at auction by these people for the purpose of those people having the information, not for the metadata to know what your buying habits are, no, but for the purpose of blackmailing you to do what they want you to do. We're already at that point that we already say, yeah, we've absorbed that. That means when it actually comes out to the level of people, it's not, we've already have something that we can help move the people into the state of understanding faster. So they're more in sync and more in vibration with what we want to do. That is the purpose of what we're doing here, is bringing this information out. Okay. Well, there we go. So we're 1 hour 1 hour in. I hope that was good. You know, if you want to jump on DM and talk about this, maybe we can get your impression about this. Anyone else wants to join in, the link is posted there in the Telegram group for Where We Go When We Go All.love. How to join that group is down in the description of this video. Just slide on down. Also, the information about joining the website is, I think, like the first line. But you don't have to go there to get online right away. It's just in the Telegram group. The link is posted. All right, so I will go ahead and continue. And so I have sent the link to Tui, and I've also sent it to Tank, so they're also can jump on at any time. Tank is usually finishing up about right now, so we'll see him over the next few minutes to half an hour, as long as he can make it on. There were some problems yesterday with him connecting. But a lot of interesting things happening on that front, in Fiji and with Manna World Holding Trust. So any moment we're going to see a lot more things happening. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the chat and see who's hanging out. Let me go ahead and I'll line things up, and I'll share my screen. Present to everyone. Okay. Well, good moments to everyone. And in the chat, I'm starting to use good moments instead of good morning, because good moments means we want you to have good moments. Good morning is where it's after the death, so we're in mourning. So just a little change of the vibrations of the words, see if we can move into a higher place just by changing some of the ways that we speak. Okay. Say all the hellos. Hello to everybody. Hello, Nate. Hello. Hello. Let's see. I'm going to increase the size here. Got to get it, let it load. That's easier to read, I'm sure, for everybody. Okay. So many manifesting at one time. Oh, yes, we're all manifesting here. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, just put a Q in the chat, and then your question right afterward. There's a new queue. Oh, I'll have to go and check out that. We'll give us a second here. We'll go back and check. Well, I can do it right now. It's all right. Interesting. Okay. What is Q saying for today? Carter Page, public FISA. Okay. Reminder that it's still under classification until today. Waterfall of proofs coming. That's interesting. So there's a FISA on Carter Page is going to be revealed. That's very interesting. What else is here? So we'll go back. Foreign assistance underway with the DOJ. So this is about the POTUS is going to ask the Queen about the United K assist. Interesting. Yeah. So foreign asset underway with the Department of Justice. So what we're looking at is the UK was part of the spying done on Trump, and they were actually coordinating, helping to coordinate that effort. So whose side are they on? The cabal side. Well, we think about the Crown Corp, and we're talking about the levels of law. You might say we had draconian law, then we had monarch law, and then we had the Crown Corp. And below the Crown Corp is the governments and the statutory law. So admiralty law and that other statutes. So if we look at the Crown Corporation, that was originally by the Crown of England, which got taken over by the Rothschilds and is, I believe, 60% owned by the Vatican. And then, of course, who owns the Vatican? The Merovingian bloodline of the Pacers. So all very interwoven, isn't it? So, well, there's some more Q posts on there. But let's go into this one and see what this is, what they're talking about here. GCHQ Chief Robert Hannigan quits. A resignation. So Hannigan oversaw a more open approach at the GCHQ after the Snowden revelation exposed mass surveillance by the agency. Okay, well, I'm not going to go through reading this article right now, but it is something that we should be aware of. So the Q that the UK has been responsible for a lot of this coordination against Trump or against the people of the world rising up. So that's part of it. A lot happening on the 24th, isn't it? Okay. Here's another one, Panic in DC. This is the first one from the 24th. So we'll go looking at that one. Trump gives AG Barr authority to declassify documents related to 2016 campaign surveillance. There we go. So what is the date of this? This was 1 hour and 25 minutes ago. Yeah, that's quite a data dump all happening while we're on the air. President Trump on Thursday night issued a memo giving Attorney General William Barr the authority to declass any documents related to surveillance of the Trump campaign in 2016. Trump also ordered intelligence community to cooperate with Barr. The memo read, the heads of the elements of intelligence community, the heads of each department or agency that includes an element of the intelligence community shall promptly provide such assistance and information as the Attorney General may request in connection with this review. So what this means that this is now the go time, right? This is the attack started. Now, if we look at back to QAnon for a moment, we look back here. We had the kickoff right here. This came out on May 3rd, right? Saying that this is the start of the offense. This is attack time, right? So, and then we only really had some like directions, like look over here, keep an eye on Representative Doug Collins, right? And look, here's that long road with Comey standing out there at the very edge of this orange dash line on the road. He's looking off into the distance. Of course, that's Comey's photo without the word and the Moab bomb coming in at him. So if you look at it, so we have almost 3 weeks gone by until we get to where we have panic in DC. Because the authorization has now come out for Barr to go ahead and issue and put this information out. So what else do we have here? So this is about a previous Q post, which is 2042, talk about special approval. Let's see, about the FISAs, right, for the different who approved them, right? What else? Also for Cruz, plus Cruz. So basically, Ted Cruz was also part of some of the spying that's part of it. Reminder, still classified. So a lot of stuff is still classified, but we're gonna see what Barr is going to bring out for declassification. So yeah, we're underway. So this is exciting times. All right, let's jump back. Here we go. Thank you for that update on Q1111 and on 1111. Are you a lot of people use numbers in regards to their anon, but that's why I just thought it interesting. Okay, let's see. I have people screaming Trump is going to create war with Iran and Korea. Not going to happen. No. In fact, he's removing all of these obstacles around the world. Not to say he doesn't fight where he has to, but when he was fighting, he literally was taking out ISIS as compared to before, where they were helping ISIS. Right? That was the delusion that they presented to everyone, is that, oh, we're attacking over here and we're attacking over here. But really, all the attacks ended up helping ISIS before Trump got there. Now ISIS is gone. They've been removed. The caliphate has been dismantled. Yeah, not too bad if you're gonna have to do any fighting. But with Korea, No, that's all going away. They're losing all of their power structures. Iran is part of this. Why do you think Dianne Feinstein and John Kerry and Biden are all contacting the mullahs of Iran recently? After all, Obama went and dropped off billions of dollars in cash to them, lifted the sanctions, said, go for it. Go get the caliphate rolling. Go ahead. So now that's all being rolled back, and Trump is trying to force the Iranians to come to him and ready to negotiate. And of course, the deep state wants Iran to stay on target and wait for the election so they can try and get rid of Trump and so on. All right. Okay, let's see. No impeachment will happen, that's true. So Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, is a problem because the young Democrats that are just elected, they don't understand that you have to have a crime in order to impeach. Because they've been listening to all the rhetoric and they just believe their politicians, and their politicians say we have to impeach, we have to impeach, without any evidence of impeachment. There's no way to impeach. And then even if they ended up all agreeing that there was and passed something, wouldn't make it into the Senate. Okay. Here we go. Tui coming on tonight. We'll see. Hey, Tui, where are you? A lot of things may be going down in Fiji, so we'll see if he's end up making it on. Trump orders declassification of intelligence related to campaign spying. Yes. The Republicans is losing Mr. Trump is persistent of USA. Someone party do not want Mr. Trump going. I didn't quite follow that. All right, so okay, Sally Yates, another transgender, along with Michael Obama. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle Obama. Michael Obama. Michelle Obama. Which one is it? It's trans confusing. Two men that practice the illusion of female. Free trade with Obama was President going, nothing Mr. Trump trying to put money back in America. Yeah, that's true, trying to put money back in and being successful. Robert Hannigan quits just as president orders declassification. Pain is coming. Yeah. No coincidence there. D-class now, I'm out of here. Yes, this is going to be interesting. China is trillions of dollars country. How the hell is it happening? If think what to produce they made in America. What to produce they make in America. Well, the thing is if you have slave labor, meaning that literally they have no choice but to do the work and they get enough food to eat. And you can produce a lot of things a lot cheaper than everywhere else. And that floods markets and people buy it at Walmart, and that system just keeps extracting money over time. No manufacturing can happen in America, but if you put tariffs on, you can actually buy things in America. The wages are going up, so it can cover the extra little cost. But even if you put on these tariffs, it really doesn't affect people directly. Cumulatively, maybe over a couple years of tariffs, you'll see a few percentage increase, because mostly it's going to be absorbed by the people that are the middlemen in China that are buying the goods, because they're the ones paying it. It's not that the retailers on the end of the line are paying it. And even if they are, it's usually something that they just absorb. I mean, how often do these retailers have 10% off? If you have a 10% tariff and you give 10% off to get people to buy things, maybe you don't need to run that special, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about that. There's even more new cues, or I think we covered them since that was written. Okay. Anyone wanting the Q Altworts? I don't know what that is. Altworts app in Google Play. QAlerts.app. Yeah, some of the apps are good. I really like QMaps.pub. It seems to be reliable. They're pretty much up to date. Hewitt report expected 29th May till July 2nd of July. Yeah, so we don't have to wait too much longer. We're a week away. Q is now the new Julian Assange. Well, Q is much more than Julian Assange. Q is the War Office. This is where the information is put out for the troops to take and run with, and direction is given to us on what to do. This is the real purpose of Q. It's nearly just not about, here's a list of stories. This is not, here's the information to go dig. This is really, direction. Where to look, what to look for, and how they can actually get direct information and work with the President of the United States. Julian Assange was not that. Julian Assange definitely put out information, and it definitely helped reveal some things. But QAnon is way much more than what Julian Assange is, my opinion. All right. Let's see. Many new crew jumps now. No problem at all. Yeah. Okay. Trump is not a warmonger. This is why he is a pariah in D.C. Yes, he's not quite what you would say a warmonger, but he's not one to back down from a fight, right? But he also wants to be able to negotiate, right? He's a deal maker. Trial was in the Senate, yeah. Okay, Trump is one of the lights, just as Lucifer. This faction defeated Satan of the sea. Two wings on the same bird. Okay. I just don't see Trump as Lucifer. It's a very confusing subject because of all the different back and forth information about Satan, Lucifer, going back to Anunnaki and Enlil, Enki, the fight of the gods, who's on what side, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. But if you look at what was done to us ongoing, it really doesn't matter. What we have to really look at is what the result was, and whether we want to participate in that anymore, and we don't. So I don't see Trump in any way being anything other than a force for good. relating to Lucifer in any way, I think, is actually just going to cause confusion. Because I know I don't know the answer of what happened in the past. All I know is the stories that are told to keep you looking in one direction of being consistent through our history. So I don't know what the truth is about what happened back then. I can make projections and flip around on it back and forth because it's all very confusing, right? So I just want to look at what are the results. I know that the ones that are doing Luciferian worship and things of that nature are not doing good things in my view. So anything along that line is basically not good for all of humanity, and that we have to move beyond all of it. Stand up and do it the right way. All right. So we've gotten to the end. So we've completed this run. So all right. So we are an hour and 20 minutes in. Tank, if he's going to be joining in, I'll see if there's any messages from him. Otherwise, what we can do is I wanted to finish up the hammer project that we were basically going on. That's about the trading platforms. We've got 6 more pages to go through. I do want to finish that out. We started at the beginning of the week, so it's good to finish that up. And after that, there's other things we can get into, but let's see if Tank has become available. Not as of yet. He has not checked that message yet. So I will give him a little bit more time, see if he's going to jump on. And I haven't seen Tui, but that's okay. All right, so let me go and I'll flip over here. This is the document we were on. It's basically the hammer page. What page are we on? Page 12 of 18. So yeah, we've got a little bit more to go. But again, this is where we left off. We're talking about the trading programs and how they fund and make huge amounts of money. Okay, according to Peter Goslar, once a close friend of Ryan Standard, other board members of Bridge SA were Colonel Tim Spicer and Mick Ranger of the Sandline fame. In a letter written to Washington law firm involving a lawsuit, Project Hammer, Goslar fingers Bridge SA, and hence Van Rowan and Ryan Standard as part of the executive outcomes operations. But there's more. During several day-long meetings I had with Peter Goslar, late June 2001, he handed me hundreds of pages of documents he had retrieved from Ryan Standard's private papers. These include documents showing a Mexican entity called Romar Pharmaceuticals that Ryan Roland told German police was the money power behind East Tech International Bank. The money Romar Pharmaceuticals claimed to control represented by over 100 billion US in gold. Other papers clearly showed Van Rowan Standard engaged in collateral trading programs involving Latin American governments, most notably Argentina, once the preferred bold hold of notorious Nazis like Martin Bormann. Another document from the batch I received from Peter Goslar was a list of companies listed under the heading United Kingdom Network, and identified this network as being part of the Palace Group. An interesting description, I think. Okay, the Palace Group. That is an interesting description. In any event, listed under this group were 24 businesses entities, including Sandline International, Diamond Works, Branch Mining Limited, and Bridge International. The list goes. The list also included Defense Systems Limited as part of the Palace Group and identified it as a division of Vickers, Britain's oldest and most distinguished armaments manufacturer, and in which resides the very center of the United Kingdom's establishment. During one of our meetings, Peter Goslar told me he was a personal acquisitions, perhaps even a friend of former East German spy master Marcus Wolf, who headed the East German security operation known as the Stasi. Peter also claimed to know several former Stasi operatives. He also spoke German fluently in addition to Afrikaans, his native language of English tongue. I later was told that Peter Goslar was briefly mentioned in the autobiography written by Marcus Wolf entitled Man Without a Face. Discussing the fall from grace of West German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt in 1977, following the discovery that his personal secretary, Dagmar Schiffler, was a spy working for the Stasi. Wolf explains that Chancellor Schmidt's spy secretary was caught with her Stasi control officer, Peter Goslar, came under suspicion by the West German counterintelligence. I asked Peter if he was the same Peter Goslar identified by his friend Marcus Wolf. He denied it was him. Nonetheless, he told me that Roland was still alive in Germany and was under the protection of two former Stasi agents. And that we know that the Stasi worked closely and in the shadows with South African intelligence on the very projects, mostly weaponized related curious. Okay. The Palace Groups, meanwhile, contain all the guilt of and charm of a privatized off-book appendage of Britain's Secret Intelligence Service, SIS. On the other side of the Atlantic, General Koch and his firm, Koch and Phillips International has many similarities as the foregoing British cousin, and probably was and is. The firm's remains active, one of the CIA's private off-the-books companies. This conclusion is not only drawn from Koch's affiliation with the known CIA entity, Nong Han Bank, but another CIA front company called Associated Traders Corporation, ATC, as it is known, came into brief prominence some years ago following a series of articles written by syndicated columnist Jack Anderson, naming Associated Traders as a gun-running, money-laundering, off-the-book CIA front. Then in 1988, a US $4 million lawsuit was filed that involved Associated Traders. By 1990, Director of CIA William Webster issued an affidavit calling for a sweeping gag order by asserting that it was a matter of national security. Off interest is the fact that more than one source was told me that Associated Traders Corporation was General Koch. The foregoing connection could easily be typed as part of the Anglo-American African covert agent intelligence relationship that continues to conceal many sins. There is a reason to suppose that part of the funds derived from the Project Hammer financial trading program went to fund certain military intelligence operations in South Africa. These are thought to have included financing of the so-called Hammer units that are alleged to have engaged in brutal beatings and associations throughout South Africa prior to the collapse of the apartheid regime. It's also believed that the Hammer funds were used to finance the purchase of arms given to the Inkatha Freedom Party and was engaged in widespread acts of bloody violence during 1992 and 1993, as discussed in the 1994 report of the Goldstone Commissions of Inquiry that named Eastek, Van Rooyen, and Stander. Another aspect of Project Hammer may have involved the desire to plunder South Africa as much of its available mineral wealth prior to the country coming under control of the ANC in 1994. In the hard-hitting and suppressed book Glitter and Greed, written by Australian investigative reporter Janine Roberts, the Oppenheimer family and De Beers arranged that a fabulous multi-billion rand stockpile of the finest gems was shipped out prior to 1994 elections, and that the mines produced the best gems were put into overdrive in both South Africa and Namibia, so that as many as possible of the better gems were extracted as fast as possible. I've also been told that large quantities of South African gold were also surreptitiously shipped out of South Africa around that time, presumably for similar reasons. It is also of interest to note that the mounting evidence points to the conclusion that since 1995, the price of gold has been kept purposely low as a result of a conspiracy engineered by the U.S. Treasury Department in collaboration with leading international banks. The result has been the cost of extracting gold for many South African gold companies no longer cost effective. Could some of this alleged missing South African gold be related to a transaction Van Rooyen and Snyder entered into in 1991? This involved Eastek International Bank agreeing to purchase 5,000 metric tons of gold at 4% discount from the prevailing second gold London fix at a cost of about 50 billion. This gold was held in the free zone area beneath Zurich's Colton Airport. The contract, which was to be governed by the Canton laws of Zurich, runs 6 pages, and each page bears an official stamp of Swiss police authorizing and validating the transaction. It remains unclear if Van Rooyen and Stander were acting on their own behalf or were fronting for someone else in this transaction. Van Rooyen at least had been fingered as a CIA asset in addition to his South African intelligence affiliations. Might they have been operating as a deniable cutout for the U.S. Treasury Department, who wished to get delivery of this gold? Perhaps the Chinese government was partly to the transaction instead. Eastek's International Bank was, after all, wholly owned subsidiary of Sino Eastek, an entity which Van Rooyen told German police investigators was established in China and which operates from Xinjiang and was originally established by General Staff of the 7th Military Power of China. In operating their bank, Van Rooyen and Slanders liaised with the Chinese Army general, who Van Rooyen declined to name saying it wasn't sure what his name is. His German police interrogator displayed a well-honored sense of official disinterest in such diplomatic incongruencies, rapidly moving on to other issues. By 1995, Easttech International Bank had begun to hit the radar screen of regulatory authorities around the world that viewed it with suspicion. But by then, it seemed probable that much of Project Hammer's South African objectives had been fulfilled. During the war, Rolf van Roen left South Africa and traveled to Germany. And according to his one-time friend Peter Goslar, that where he still lives, albeit protected by former members of the East German Stasi spy network. It remains to be seen whether the sanctions busting objective of South Africa and the Project Hammer was a simple case of certain elites making sure they got all the mineral wealth they needed from South Africa before turning the country over to the ANC and Nelson Mandela in 1994. What is known is that the price of gold entered a new round of price manipulation beginning in 1995, which continues to this day. Over the last 2 years, the Gold Antitrust Action Group have demonstrated that the manipulation of gold price had been orchestrated by the U.S. Federal Reserve, working in collusion with leading Wall Street and international banks. Many of those banks quoted by Gatha as being the party of the price manipulation conspiracy, for that is what amounts to there are major players in the trading platforms. In any event, the price of gold has made many South African mines uneconomical to operate and cannot help but ask if this was by design. South African hemisphere nations may sit on much of the mineral wealth of the planet, but the Northern Hemisphere industrial nations appear intent on continuing to control and exploit it. The French Connection again. Project Hammer and Jacob have appearance of being an umbrella operations geared in the narrow sense of at least to generating funds for particular authorized projects. Once the proper authorization has been issued, programs such as these seem to broaden in scope, and greater effort goes towards creating deniable slush funds for use in any number of ways as the occasion demands. When you think about it, this makes considerable sense for those who are engaged in the game of black operations and political manipulation. In addition to authorization to repatriate dollars dating back to 1940s and 50s, as explained by General Koch, could Project Hammer have had other purposes? Could it, for example, be used to finance another project once had specified East German connotations with which might explain the Stasi connection more fully? It is certainly interesting that on the 6th of February 1989, the French Central Bank, the Banque de France, issued an international certificate of deposit of 620,000 kilograms of 99.9% pure gold. At that time, 620 metric tons of gold had a market value of about 7 billion, a king's ransom. The certificate is almost identical to dozens that I have on file, and which I have written about and also reproduce in my book, The Secret Gold Treaty. As I explained, there are certificates of this nature invariably contains spelling mistakes and other obvious typographical flaws, which can be used to deny the validity of the certificate in the event it ever reaches the public attention. Yeah, so uh, purposeful misspellings. I've seen that many times. This was a technique developed by Britain's Secretive Special Operations Executive (SOE) in World War II. SOE agents parachuted into France and elsewhere in occupied Europe, were thought to insert prearranged spelling errors on messages they sent by radio in the event that they were captured by the Nazis. This would immediately alert SOE that the agent was in custody, that the German counterintelligence wished to use the agent to feed false information back to HQ. So, are you online, Tank?
Yes, I am here. I'm here.
Okay, all right. Well, good. I can use a break from reading. Just continuing with the Hammer report here. We got another 3 pages in. So, anyway, that's fine. Well, how's it going?
Well,
QAnon
things
has been going and saying that the FISA is that Trump has now said that the FISA can be declassified. They just happened an hour and a half ago.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah,
Outstanding. Great news.
that is good
So
news.
now they're going to take some action that's actually action. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
We were right about the trust. The trust, there was attempted hacks again, right? And they again did not get past the first firewall, as you would expect. And the secret space program tried the same and failed, as we expected. And they have no eyes or ears, and they can't see what's going on in the system. And so that's kind of all we can say, because what is going on in the system, they don't know about. So I'm not going to be the one to tell them. So
Yeah, you just told them that they don't have access. Good.
so to you guys out there who wanted to hack the trust, and the banks who tried to hack the trust again, and you have absolutely no power, and the secret space program who thought it was great, the combination of you guys to keep us all enslaved, you can suck it. Good luck, because you are not going to be able to touch that money ever again. So, excuse me, but I'm so sick of these guys. It's like, you could have just been human, dicks. Sorry, that's again probably gonna be a word we'll get flagged for, but sorry, I just can't stand them.
His name was Richard, right?
Richard. All the guys named Richard specifically is who I was talking to. Yeah. So, but I feel great about that. Everything's falling into place and going our way. And what else? Had a really fascinating call tonight on the Speak Pro Radio with Lawrence Barlow. He was talking about his journey from like a cult, made secret like battle armor for the military, and ended up, not letting them have it, and then ended up becoming a city councilman, and he's bringing the whole town out of culthood. Pretty impressive story.
Okay.
Pretty impressive story. Yeah.
That'll be good to listen to. There's a lot of good information coming out. All these projects, it's amazing. So I covered in the very beginning Serial Brain 2. So one of the things that's coming out about the Hammer is that what the Hammer ultimate meaning was, it's a spying program. But the Hammer is referring to auctioning off the information.
Yep.
Right? So that you can be blackmailed by anyone who decides they need information on you. They just buy the info. Right? So they're just squeezing their chattel, their herd, to get more ways of making money off of us, because they're just treating us like we have no rights. They squeeze us out blackmail on it for any purpose. And since that system can plant information on people, someone could plant information on you to get you out of the way. So that's where this is so good that this information is coming out. And since this is kind of ahead of the curve getting this information out through QAnon and Serial Brain 2, like David Janda, he brought out the information about the hammer, and everyone knows it's about spying, and the Russian collusion delusion was all about the cover up and saying that they weren't collaborating with the Russians, but it was Trump collaborating with the Russians. Well, but behind that, which will come out later, is that we know that the hammer is about spying and placing information on other people's computers and then selling that information to anyone who could blackmail you. Very evil. Can you imagine the world where this was the standard operating system, where your enemies could just buy the data on you?
I can imagine it because it currently exists. So it would look exactly like what you see. Yeah. Yeah. So what it would look like is that people would get up and make arguments that everybody else knew were false, but they had somehow a good reputation and a good job, and we all respected them because they had money. And then they'd continue to say the exact same things, and we'd all sit there because they said it so many times and go, well, maybe it's true, because they kept repeating it over and over and over again. Yeah, I can imagine what that world will look like. Exactly like the one we live in. So,
well, I was imagining something much worse than that.
How? Really?
I was, but I was, looking at where we really had no choice at all. We just had to fall in line with what they said. Go to this job where they directed you, changed you to another place. I grew up in Pennsylvania in a steel mill town, and that town was, I saw the steel mills disappear, right? And everyone would sit around waiting. I went back many years later and visited with my childhood friends, and how they would wait near the phone in the morning, like 6 a.m., to see if they get a phone call to go work for the day. And it was like across the board. Nobody had jobs. But they were all on this program to go work somewhere for the day. So I imagine that like be the case for everyone. You get your assignment, comes in on your email, it's implanted in your Borg implant, comes across your eyes while they're closed. And if you don't go do it, then your data was used against you to cause you more servitude, more pain, whatever. Anyway. But yeah, I get you. It's here around us right now, but it's still in the shadows for the most part. People don't see it. If they want it to be overt, the cabal wants everyone to know that they're the masters, and without being in the shadows. But they can't come out of the shadows. They have to stay in the shadows. In fact, we have to eliminate the shadows, and then we eliminate them. Eliminate their control.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? We're doing it. It's I'm actually I got a little bummed out yesterday. I was a little this morning finally recovered. Because sometimes this stuff can really just weigh on you. You're like we're just constantly pushing and pressing and trying to expose, and seeing the things that are playing out in public are just horrific at times. But right now they're exposing everything. I read this article today and I just was blown away by it. Really, that they were talking about how Planned Parenthood, right, the international Planned Parenthood, which by the way we contributed major tax dollars to, right,
Sure.
but not a dime to the wall, right, and they were several accounts, credible accounts of people in the organization high up, and that they were in Africa, and they were providing the people at events, right, with prostitutes, right, and also the younger volunteers who were there to contribute to Planned Parenthood. They were basically pimping them out and offering them as sex slaves to the more senior members. And I'm like, this is what you animals are supporting out there, when you're the nonstop barrage of like how it's a woman's choice. This is how they empower women. That's the powerful woman that they have. They offer up the young, innocent people trying to support something they think is good as to be a prostitute for someone. That is what happens. That is amazing. And then I saw this today.
Yeah, I have.
So,
I'm not surprised, but I have not heard that before about that organization. But it doesn't surprise me. It's just as I say. They're putting this up for auction. This data, they're selling off America through the hammer. It's like it's collecting all this information. And they sell it, right? And they sell access to blackmailing you as well. Oh, we'll put data on there for you so you can have get them to do what you want. Right? So it doesn't surprise me. But to but not most people in the world. They just can't absorb this right away. So I wish we could shock them all at one time and get them all to get the download and get it. But it's this great awakening. It's just people are still in a slumber, and they're just now saying, okay, well, the D class is going to happen now. We got some information to come out, and then it's going to point at these bad guys at the top of the bureaus and these agencies. And then then they'll be surprised it gets up to Hillary, and then surprised when it gets up to Obama, and then surprised when it gets to Bush, and surprised about 9/11, and they'll be surprised about everything. It just they're just not at that point yet. They haven't had enough red pills.
well, there's another thing out today that and I think it's OAN, something like that. This broadcaster put this out, and it was awesome. She nailed this down so much. She was talking about this whole, the whole transgender, re-identification thing, right? And she was talking about the, gender dysphoria, right? Like this confusing time in a kid's life when they're not sure, which, what they like or who they are. And she she was showing how they're promoting this in the schools. Now they're promoting this in California, which, by the way, oh my God, California is. I mean, that it is such a travesty. If you want to see what the world's going to become, you know, I can't stand the way that they're communicating all these terrible things on the preschool level, right? They're imposing these views, talking about sex to my 5-year-old. I could not be held responsible for my actions. I'm telling you, I would lose my mind if somebody took my perfect, beautiful, innocent daughter and took it upon themselves to talk to her about sex. I mean, how dare they? And they're not. And they used to send it, ask permission. Used to send permission slips home, and you had to sign off. None of that. They're just teaching it, right? So in this, she talked about some things that I had never heard before, such as um, the the number of people who go through gender reassignment and they regret it, right? And they suffer, and what the period of time is that they suffer from just that remorse, right? And the regret from doing that. She talked about how so many people that go through this surgery and even kids who have go through gender dysphoria, how if they go through a period of time, now they grow out of it and then they identify themselves, as they want later, right, without having a sex change. Um, and how it's such an extreme measure that you really can't take back, right?
Right.
And just talking about how all these other studies and how this woman was trying to say it's really about civil rights. No, it's not about civil rights. Okay, civil rights are things that you cannot change, right? You cannot change. Now, no one is making no one's making an argument against the um, gay or lesbian individual who's born gay or lesbian and they just are naturally, attracted to the opposite sex, like, or I mean, to the same sex. That does happen. That is a genetic anomaly that does occur. But what we're against is abusing our kids and imposing things on them and confusing the hell out of them so they don't have any idea what's right or wrong. And the fact that is being put in our schools, are you kidding me? I mean, on top, it really is just such a pronounced extension of the end game, right? That everything they've been lying to us subtly for years and years and years, and slightly changing the story for years, for hundreds of years. I mean, if not thousands, I guess, right?
Right.
But to be this belligerent, blatant in a culture where we are watching everything, every move, everything that's said, we're all over it, right? And that to me is what's so amazing, that like, the angry feminist groups, right, who are like boastful about something that's private, you know, it's like, even if you participated in it and certain people don't agree with it, for the most part, it's like you don't really want to talk about it. The only reason why you want to talk about it is because you've been gassed up, right? It's like, there's cultures that don't believe in masturbation. They're like, I don't want to hear anybody going like, hey, guess what I did? Like, I don't need to know that. It's personal, right? Like, I don't need it promoted on a sign. I saw these I saw these I saw these girls today, right? These college kids online, and they were obviously young, like freshmen, sophomores in college, and they had T-shirts on that said, "It's my body, it's my choice." Which, by the way, I am 10,000% in. You are absolutely right. It's your body, it's your choice. It's your choice when you decide whether or not to sleep with somebody. It's your choice whether or not you decide to use protection. It's your choice whether or not, even according to Roe versus Wade, the first 12 weeks, it's still a choice for you if you don't want that baby. But even Roe versus Wade, it defines life, and it defines it and says the woman's life and the life of the child have to be treated separately. Now, the fact that they're acknowledging in the law that there is a life of the child, they're acknowledging it in our law. So imagine if even if right now we just enforce the laws instead of going this incredibly insane route that we're going to let, babies be harvested and killed, right? Um, they've just gone too far. But these girls, they had this big huge sign up, right? And the sign said, it said it said a parasite has no rights. That's what it said. I said parasites have no rights, right? So first of all, I thought to myself immediately. I pulled my sons aside, right, and I showed it to them, and I told them, I said, I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever put yourself in this situation, I would be heartbroken, right? Not to put that guilt on my sons, but they know, but I need them to really appreciate how devastatingly evil that is to the parents of those kids, who they are the beneficiaries of not being aborted, right? And and lo and behold, they're putting this, and they're calling a child a parasite, right? Because at some point, we have to admit it's a child, right? If it could sustain life, it's a child, right? Um, so, but on top of that, there's two different issues here. There is the issue of, do we agree whether or not the child in the woman, in the mother, is a child, or if it's the way they said, a parasite, right? Or if it's just flesh that belongs to the mother, right?
Right.
That's one question. Now we could disagree on that, but once the baby survives an attempt on its life and it lives, it's alive, it's separate from the mother. Every legal parameter recognizes it as a living being. It is an American citizen. It has all the rights that any other American citizen does. And if we don't protect the rights of that living child, then we are not even human, let alone American. So that piece. And in that, right, in this debacle, those two issues are convoluted because that bill has been shot down 38 times. Now, you mean to tell me that if your child lives after you tried to abort it, it somehow affects your health? I don't care anymore because, first of all, like, the fact that you would have aborted them that late stage is questionable about who you are as a person, about if you even have a soul. And then on top of that, the baby's alive. We'll separate the baby from you, right? Because to be honest, that baby has rights now too, and they're just as prominent as yours. And that baby's life, that baby, it's its body now. Now it has a body and it's its choice. And until that baby can make a choice, it needs to be preserved. Its life needs to be preserved by someone who wants it. So that baby should definitely be taken. That mother shouldn't even have any rights at all if she chose to have an abortion anytime after whatever. I don't even want to put a date on it. But she decided to have an abortion in 30 weeks, 35 weeks, 40 weeks, all those things. She shouldn't have any rights to that child if it lives. I don't care if she has remorse or not. She does not get to have her child. It has to be absolute, and that should be written into the law. And that baby has to be preserved because constitutionally, it's alive. Those are the laws in the country we live in because we don't live in some freaking crazy, whacked out Sharia loving place where we just don't respect life. And that is it just infuriates me. And anybody who's supporting that, that is what they're supporting. They're not empowering women. They are literally they're taking the right of a woman to have a moment of weakness, which I'll give her. They're taking that, and they're making something. They're making laws supporting her moment of weakness or moment of blackmail, for all I know. I don't even know, and making it so the one connection that all of us, everybody has this desire to have a child. You're taking that from her because there is no way you can give that baby back to that woman. You can't.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
You know, when I was in high school thinking about this issue, you know, I kind of formed an opinion. This is it because you know the whole conversation back then, and you know, sex ed was you know in starting in like 11th grade, not kindergarten, right? And so you know, I can say, all right, you know, makes sense to have it in high school. You know, if your parents agree, fine, you know. But talking about abortion at that time, I was thinking, well, why does the government have anything to do with making any sort of regulations about this? You know, and I said, and unless we can determine when the soul enters the body, when does the soul actually start? Is it when the first cell splits? You know, is it when the sperm hits the egg? You know, when does the soul then take hold? You know, we can measure when someone dies that they literally something leaves the body that has weight. You know, they can literally measure something that is there that is then gone after the death occurs. But you know, when does the soul actually enter? And I think until then, this is my opinion when I was in. My opinion has evolved since then. But I think the point of of actually saying that government puts things into place, and so that the government is supplying some sort of industry with something that they want. So after birth abortion is something that some industry wants. And as you were saying earlier, Planned Parenthood doesn't seem to be such a very good industry from how they're really treating women as as objects, you might want to say, or things to be sold off. Or even children, at that matter, body parts, and I think it was something like $27 for a fetus that they get.
Yep, $27.
So why should they be able to sell it? Right? If you eliminated them from being able to sell it, there would be that industry would just disappear. I think we should look at it more along those lines. It's like stop them from being able to.
Yep.
Or even turn it into biosludge.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know, but so much. I'm glad we're pushing back now, and I'm glad people are waking up because it's really bad. we got a lot of work to do, so getting this information out is important. Even though I'm sure this this one will probably end up being demonetized, no matter what is going on. So these are things that we have to really focus on and get this information out, and we're doing it. There's another I was going to talk about a completely other subject today, not Serial Brain 2, but it was so on talking about the hammer and everything. I just wanted to continue with it. But another whole topic, there was a special that was put out by the Blaze TV and Glenn Beck about socialism, communism, and how the people, the kids of today who are all for socialism, they just don't know what it means. They don't understand that it was responsible for 100 million deaths plus. Right? So not communism, because communism hasn't even been done on the planet. There are democratic socialists and socialist systems that have been put in place, and all of them end in misery. And Venezuela, Glenn Beck went over a history of Venezuela. It was the fourth richest country on the planet in the 1950s. It has so much oil reserves, it dwarfs Saudi Arabia. I mean, it makes Saudi Arabia. I think they had 300 billion barrels, and Saudi Arabia had 230 billion, and America had 80 billion as a relationship. But they had a very prosperous, cities and people, and they had excess income to spend on vacations and everything. But now they're starving, and they average person in Venezuela has lost 28 pounds.
Wow.
So, but the people the kids of today, they've been taught by the school system that socialism is the answer. So they don't even know what they're getting into. They don't know the history. They don't know what's happened. All these the worst dictatorships on the planet have all resulted in these people dying.
Well, yeah, and that's the reality of how it manifests. Socialism is reflected in highways and schools and everything else, and all it does is program. We've allowed them to dictate what the educational protocol is for our schools. It's this is ever since you've had a Department of Education, right? You allow them to dictate what the quality of our highways are, which honestly, like we have right now in our group, we have we have pavement that is 8 times stronger than what is currently made, and it integrates naturally with the earth and absorbs more of the radiation, so you don't have these massive blocks of radiative energy being created, especially in cities, right?
Right.
Things like that. We have real education where we can actually teach skills and teach the ability to think in an intelligent way versus training them to be in work the Ford factory or enter data for Bill Gates. We have better everything than what we have, but because we've been a socialist state for a long time, we've allowed this to happen because federal government has done away almost completely with state lines. We no longer have any kind of community where we're established, right? Because they can control what we do. We have standardized testing, so everybody's judged by the same standard, and that is ultimately what we all are used to. We're used to that, so we think it's normal. We don't even know what it's like to be in a place where anything's possible because you don't have that, because the money's in the hands of the people, right? And that's the thing. It's just you know it's not just uh, it's not just creating new things and just throwing out an answer. Even look at the GCR. The GCR is a completely socialist idea if you think about it. Because what was everybody going to do? They were going to go in and impose their project on whatever area. We were going to have unlimited money. We were all going to do the same thing. Everybody wanted to bring out the same tech. Even you know, even these guys with the free energy generators. Like, we're just going to get them out to everybody around the world. It's like, no, that's not what you're going to do because that's not what's in the best interest of the planet. You can't just disrupt every aspect that is connected to the oil industry. You have to consider what is the impact this has, right? And you do have to consider the economic impact because it affects lives, but it can't be all you consider. And that's part of the issue is that, there's a hierarchy established in what what is essential, and what is essential in a socialist, slave control system, which is exactly what it is, because those aren't the laws that govern all of those making the laws, right? They're governed by a different set of laws altogether. They answer to their hive master or whatever. They have a hive mind. They say the same things. They repeat the same rhetoric. It's just kind of exhausting, right? It's like all of these incredible differences we have. They make life more interesting. They make everything better. Why not
Well,
just find ways to let people be themselves?
well, the things that work are when you do have a true capitalist system, right? That it ends up working, but the problem is when that capitalist system is then distorted, and what we have is a distorted system. It's only capitalism from a certain viewpoint, where you're allowed to do is open a business and everything, but it's so controlled that you really don't have the free reign to do things. You don't have the capital available, and those that do have the capital are because they're part of the cabal, right? They're in the system. They've gone along with what is expected of them to be on the right side of what they want. And so you can basically sell yourself out and get into line and get money out of this system, but it's not true capitalism. Where you can set up a company and do what you want and make your niche and be prosperous without the things coming down. I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine last night. Worked with him for 7 years in the medical marijuana system in California. He's an attorney, business, works in many businesses. He was on this, New York Stock Exchange attorney. Um, did many businesses, and very learned person. So I was talking with him about what's the status of that business of the medical marijuana industry. Well, now it's recreational, or in essence, just the dispensary business. And he was describing to me, since I left it, some 6 years ago, um, I was trying to put in reasonable regulations and, working with City Hall and talking with the people that are, regulators and say how to do it so that it would be sensible and make sense, and not, but it's become very burdensome. They had it up to about 45% of the cost was in taxes, and that caused a very big black market to happen. They pulled back on that. They're down to around 32% in taxes. But they created all this bureaucracy and separated all the components. So it's made it very inefficient. Nobody is able to really make money. So even the ones that are new, that have come into it and put millions of dollars into creating a 10,000 square foot facility, they're barely break even. Um, so this over-regulation of it is also meant to stop it from proceeding. Right? It's just another form of control. Until they can come in and offer a new solution where maybe it's only the government you can get it from. That's what I see coming down the line. Well, anyway, it's just see that it requires probably an all new effort to get the government out of it. I for many years I have another friend of mine who's an addiction medicine specialist. And while I was in this industry, I would, talk with him and talk about these issues and point out a lot of the what was known as negative side effects of it were literally more from the way it was grown, the pesticides and chemicals used to grow it. Then you combust those things and put them into your blood, causes negative side effects. So that would be one of the things. And then, some of the other, but over the years, I would read the California Board of Medicine's report on marijuana, and they would put out this information, and it would say that there was in the very beginning of I was reading the report, it's all the standard dogma how bad it is and very addictive. It was it was almost like just a repeat of everything that you heard out of all the education you've heard about it in school. Or it's just it was all nonsense, really. There was no real science to it. It was all just dogma. But over the years, year by year, I saw it change the information in that report to where the last one that I read, and it says. Uh, uh, to their conclusion, it was non-addictive. Um, if there is any addiction to it, it seems to be that any of the detriments are far outweighed by the positive effects, and that should be readily available as aspirin, and that no doctor should be required to actually write any script or prescription for it.
Right.
So that's what happened over time, right? That's probably over a period of 5-6 years. I was reading these reports, and to know that the reality is the reason really why it was made illegal was the alcohol industry for the most part didn't want people to use it because they didn't drink for the most part. It's not something you want to. I remember there was a one of these Dare ads when I was in high school, right? Dare to keep kids off drugs, right? I remember watching this film that they made us watch. It was pretty funny. So they had this guy who was going to drink this shot of whiskey, right? But first, what they did is they put him in a car on an obstacle course and had him drive it out and go through the obstacle course, and he just drove it fine, right? And then he had one shot of whiskey, right? And he went out and he still drove fine, no problem. And they gave him another shot of whiskey, right? And he still drove fine. And he had another shot of whiskey, and he was still fine. And then they gave him one more, and then he's starting to maybe graze some of the cones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they had him smoke a joint.
Oh God!
And he
Oh
plowed
no!
through all the cones, right?
Yeah, because
So
all the shots are hitting them all at once, and then
yeah, after that, after all that alcohol, then they gave him a joint and said, "See how bad marijuana is for you." I remember all of us were laughing so hard about that because it was so ridiculous. We all knew that it said, yeah, obviously, you're going to drink all that alcohol and then smoke. You're going to get, you're going to go to la la land. Anyway, but this is what happens. The government overreaches and they get into everything so they can control every aspect of it. So again, so that they can make money. And the government shouldn't be in the business of making money. That's why I think taxes should be completely eliminated. Receiving money from the people should be eliminated from government's purview. They should only send the money out, based upon a return of productivity that is measured by things that we can do. We can measure productivity of people, and that's what the gives the ability of the country to put out a combination of based on asset and productivity gives the ability for governments to create money into the system. And once that money is out in the system, you have the velocity of cash rolling out there, going around in circles and circles. It's not going back into the hands of the government, especially to pay interest to a private bank. You'd have abundance because it would be flowing out. And would there be inflation? Uh, it's not going to be the same system. Inflation is part of an interest-based system. It has to increase because the decrease in the value of the currency. If you ask for asset and no interest, we're not going to have the same sort of effect. But people will become wealthy, and that money will be spent on new things and things that people want. And if you had the money and you need to spend, you spend. I've been part of households where my father-in-law was, a billionaire. They spent. If I tell you, I could guess if my brother-in-law right now, if I'm sure he's spending $50,000 in a day. Yeah, just a home expense with the family and everything else. Money just flows right out. Do they have the best of everything? Sure, they do. They have 5 cars each and so on, whatever it is. But there's a limit to how much you can spend. I think he's pretty much at it. But this is there's a level of which we if we do something new, we can't look at the old things that were being done and say it's going to have an effect in the same way as a new system. So inflation is not going to look like it looks like today in the existing system. So, anyway. That's where where I see we need to go. It's a completely different system, and if TUI is ready, they get the money in from the trust, and they want to do a reverse system. Let's see how that works out.
Yeah, I do think that's where we're at. I think that I don't think we're gonna have to explore. I never. Whenever I think about their system of leveraging assets, and essentially it's like if you have the assets, you don't need to leverage it, right? And and people think the M1 is a person, right? When it's not. It's a category, right?
It's an authorization level.
Right, right. And that's all, and that's what it is. It's never been one person, right?
I had it once described to me as a position of like a notary.
Right. It's like they can sign off to allow the allocation number for the assets to be dispersed, basically. It's like, so at that level, there's one person left, which is Kim. And it's the reason why it's always been such a sought after position, and everyone's what is it? Neil Keenan thought he was the M1, and then there's some other. The Philippines loved it. They have a bunch of M1s, right? And then
I had one here just the other day.
Right, there's another M1 out of Europe who Eminem's talked to, and all these different characters. It's like you don't even know what you're talking about. Like you don't even use the terminology correctly, or what the terminology is, and you intentionally don't use it so that you can create confusion because you don't want people to know the truth. Because if you actually wanted people to know the truth, you take the time to educate them. You care enough about them to tell them the truth. It's like I use an example all the time. I'm like, you know what? If somebody really loves you, they're the same one that will tell you like when your breath is bad, right? Like it doesn't feel good when they tell you, but aren't you glad? So you don't walk around and talk to anybody else with bad breath, right? Like just give them a mint. Like it's not gonna, it's like it's okay. You're not gonna lose any friends that way, you know. And I just think about this all the time. It's like the cabal, their classic mo. They do not care enough about you to tell you the truth. They don't care. They don't. And the big illusion is that when someone does tell you the truth, it's so contrary to the lie you've been told that it's so easy to demonize that individual, right? It's so easy, right? Like, oh, how dare you? I'm this. It's like, you know what? Like, I watch the visceral hatred that is acted out, and I don't even know if it's real or just great acting. I don't know, you know, in the way that they talk about President Trump. And the more I watch him handle himself, I saw this today. He tweeted this out. He said how he went into that meeting and he was so calm and so kind to Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, right? Because they always accuse him of raging out, right? And like they accuse him of hateful language. I'm like, you lying scumbags. You spread all your hateful, mean-spirited, anti-Trump rhetoric right? All the time. I don't even know what they represent or stand for, other than enslavement. I mean, it is so obvious the agenda at this point. It's anybody who's following along with that and holding to it. You got to be embarrassed. I mean, it's Antifa. I mean, are you kidding me? We have a sponsored Democratic group that is saying that they're the anti-white supremacists, right? So to show their support, they dress up in masks and black outfits and try to scare the heck out of white guys all over the place, right? They're yelling at them for being white supremacists. Like, how on earth do you think that because a guy is being white, something he can't control, how is that any less racist than if you had the Klan on the street dressed up, wearing terrifying costumes, yelling horrible things to black people walking by? There's no difference. I mean,
Right.
but we're not allowed to say that, right? Because I'm a white guy. I'm not allowed to say the fact of the matter, right? But like that's ridiculous too. Everybody who's been shamed into thinking there's something wrong with them, you know. There was this guru a while back in the Dinar land, and he was publicly shaming white people and saying how there was going to be a whole, and he was shaming, talking about how there's going to be all these new galactics and all these new people here, right? Meanwhile, he was creating new reasons to be ashamed of yourself, right? I'm just like, are you kidding me? I'm like,
Yeah, I know. Oh, hello, Tank. Space Command to Galactic Unicorn. Come in, Galactic Unicorn. Tank got knocked off, or maybe got a phone call. You know what? I don't know if he knows that he's off. That's one of the things I don't know. All right. Let's see. Well, we're in 2.5 hours, so we can decide whether we want to roll the dice and wait for Tank to come back on, or we can close it down. I'll just say, the position of M1. There's a lot of people that have an understanding of that position, and they may think that they actually have that position, and I don't. I don't fault anyone for doing it. Some people were chosen and put into place by elders. Some, by heredity. As I said, I had someone who was here just a couple weeks ago that was claimed to be Marcos's daughter, and I told her, "You're the third Marcos daughter that I met, yeah, that are not, the known daughters." These are so yeah, there's all the claims of having access to these accounts, and they believe it. I don't. A lot of them are in the position for good reason. Are some of them scammers? Could be. I don't know. Some stories don't check out. Some that I just check out as far as I know, and some seem to be very legitimate. But even like a Tank was mentioning Neil Keenan. Actually, someone just sent me a document by Neil Keenan. It's about the history and timeline. It's a document from 2015, and it was a very good document. I didn't finish reading it. I only got about 125 pages. Let me just pull it up for a second. Show it to you. Since I have it sitting here. Neil Keenan, History and Events Timeline Securing the Global Collateral Assets, published December 22nd, 2015. And I went through, the first, 30 pages or so. And it's a well organized document talking about, what was set up. And it's a very good document. So I'm sure that I know a lot of the information in here is actually accurate, but and I know Neil Qanon went and did his lawsuit on behalf of a family and all this, and I believe that that he made his best efforts to do things. Now, could I be wrong about any of that? I could be. I'm just looking at what I have, and I haven't dug into any of it. But this is an interesting document, and anything gives a little bit more information, right, about what's gone on in the past, and how this all has been brought together. Bretton Woods Agreement, Green Hill Memorial Agreement, the takeover by London and the Federal Reserve against the cabal. Got Rothschild, Schiff, Warburg, Rockefeller, Morgan, Harriman. Can't quite read that, but there's a pyramid structure there. Was that correct? I don't know. Here's people behind. I always wonder if Schiff here is the same Schiff we're dealing with, Adam Schiff in Congress. They send be in power positions, right? But I'm going to finish reading this document, and we'll probably go over it. These are the people that were against the Federal Reserve, and they all were on the Titanic, and they all died that night. So was there a conspiracy with the Titanic? Maybe so, right? But it also talks about all these historical assets that the Fed basically gave out pretty paper for gold, right? And what happened when that happened? They put spelling errors into documents. When people brought them back to them, the Fed would say, "Oh, well, this isn't real. Look at the spelling errors," right? But they were there from the beginning, right? Used as a method to scam. So the whole system, has mistreated everyone, on the planet, treating them just so that they could build a system in which they were the only beneficiaries of. So anyway, I'll be going through that document and getting back to that. And maybe we'll read it out on the air. I can point you to on my channel that there are 2 videos I did called "The History of Banking: An Asian Perspective." That each one's about a 45-minute video. I encourage you to go look at them because it has literally a PowerPoint presentation that goes through how money was moved around, about the plan of the experts and the monarchy side of things in the world, how they put that into place, and the spiritual side. Right? But there's a whole level of control above the pyramid. It's the reverse of the pyramid. And what does that mean? What does that look like? So education, it gives us a foundation to know. Now, is it 100% or is it 90% accurate? I don't know, but it's a good place to start. So I would encourage you to go look at that. Please join me on WWG1WGA.love on the website there. You are participating. There's a free membership. Please sign up for it. You're welcome to join, get the information we'll be providing. You can join as $1.11 or $8.88 or even $99.99 a year, and I get other levels. But it's to get access to being able to be part of the forums and participate and give back and forth. If you just want to view things that are on the blog, it's a free membership. And again, this is a just beginning website. So anyway, it's developing. There'll be a lot of changes. I'm going to add the Serial Brain 2. I'm going to be adding the Blaze information under the section about the deep state religion. So talking about socialism, communism, sadism, it's all part of that deep state religion, which is the cabal religion. So please share this video. Get as many people looking at it as possible. Be sure to subscribe, give your thumbs up, and come back tomorrow. So until tomorrow, we'll see you. Bye-bye.